coming up on Global Business. Broaden perspectives. 15th BRICS Summit adopts a resolution for inclusion of new members: Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Towards a shared future, Chinese enterprises and South African farmers join hands to foster sustainable development in local agriculture. And in today's episode of Biz Focus, we look into how financial services are expediting the post-flood recovery of businesses in China. It is good evening from Beijing, and this is Global Business on CGTN. I'm Lily Lu. Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates have become the BRICS new members. The announcement was made at the 15th BRICS Summit in Johannesburg. The leaders of existing member nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, made a joint media statement and delivered individual speeches. Joe Willits has more.
6 new members have joined BRICS. The historical declaration was announced by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa at a press conference during the Johannesburg summit.
We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of BRICS. The membership will take effect from the 1st of January 2024.
Alongside existing members, BRICS now has a total of 11 member countries. Chinese President Xi Jinping has congratulated the new members and said BRICS expansion is historic and a new starting point for BRICS cooperation.
This membership expansion is historic. It reflects the resolution of the BRICS countries to unite and cooperate with other developing countries. It meets the expectation of the international community and serves the common interests of emerging markets and developing countries. The expansion is also a new starting point of BRICS cooperation. It will inject fresh vitality into the BRICS cooperation mechanism and further strengthen the forces for world peace and development.
During the summit, Brazilian President Lula da Silva said the organization would remain open to new members and said the interest of other countries to join validated the organization's pursuit of a new world economic order. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the nation fully supports membership expansion and would continue building consensus for other countries wishing to join BRICS. Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered his remarks virtually. He thanked President Ramaphosa for handling the summit and his efforts to expand the alliance. During the BRICS Plus dialogue with United Nations officials and African leaders in attendance, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said a second phase of membership expansion would follow and welcomed other countries to join BRICS. Joe Willits, CGTN.
Well, the BRICS Africa Outreach and BRICS Plus dialogue has been held on the last day of the BRICS Summit in Johannesburg. The meeting was attended by BRICS leaders, United Nations officials, and African leaders of state. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres told the gathering that reform is needed for multilateral institutions to be universal. Chinese President Xi Jinping also addressed the meeting, saying that China's financial institutions will launch a special fund of $10 billion to implement its global development initiative. He also said that China will increase cooperation with African countries. Let's take a listen.
We have put development first and allocated more resources. China has set up a global development and South-South cooperation fund with a total funding of $4 billion. and Chinese financial institutions will soon set up a special fund of $10 billion dedicated to the implementation of the GDI.
And to get more feedbacks and reactions, let's cross over to our correspondent Jim Stearman in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. Hi there, Jim. So what has been the response of Gulf nations to the inclusion of the UAE in BRICS?
Yes, as you mentioned, the United Arab Emirates is among 6 new countries that have been invited to join BRICS. The new candidates will be formally admitted as members on January 1st, 2024. That's next year. The UAE's President Mohammed bin Zayed welcomed the invite and said that he looks forward to the cooperation. A little bit earlier today, I spoke to Christopher Payne. He's the former chief economic advisor at Dubai's International Finance Center, and he called this a significant move, especially for the UAE and the Global South.
I think it's potentially very significant, very important change from what the BRICS was to what it might be in the future. And it's very interesting that of the new members, there's obviously a focus on very resource-rich countries, which maybe tells you about some of what the current members are thinking about the role of BRICS going forward. But I think as the sort of BRICS idea develops into a much broader collection of countries with potentially shared economic interests in this kind of broader global south, then obviously, Dubai, UAE would want to be part of that because it's always been part of their vision to be a hub in the middle of that collective. So whether that be the financial center, a major international financial center for these countries, or trade center or otherwise, or center of expertise and human capital, it makes a huge amount of sense for the UAE to want to be part of this grouping.
And let's also cross over to our correspondent Robert Najila in Johannesburg, South Africa. Robert, could you elaborate a bit more on the implication of this expansion of the BRICS alliance for global trade and geopolitics?
Well, 3 things. First, once these 6 countries join the BRICS bloc on January 1st, 2024, effectively what that means is that they will represent at least 35 to 37% of global trade, which is huge. Second, what this does is it creates a network of countries globally. You're talking about from Africa to Asia to the Middle East and to South America. And let's not forget, the BRICS leaders here this morning said that they've instructed their foreign ministers to continue looking at new membership. We know that a number of countries have already expressed joining the BRICS apart from the 6 countries. Now, once that happens, then this becomes an even bigger organization with huge, huge implications on the global stage. Third, the global financial system. We know that a lot of BRICS members have expressed dissatisfaction about the current global financial system, saying that it was quite unfair to them and the way they were treated on that stage. And we know that there have been discussions here in the last few days over introducing local currency in trading amongst member states. Now, these discussions will be ongoing, and as this expansion goes on, this is likely to be a huge, huge feature. Now, in this regard, we're talking about decoupling from the dollar in terms of global trade, and this will have huge ramifications going forward as well.
Well, great insights. Thank you very much. That's our correspondent Robert Najila in Johannesburg for us. Well, the expansion of the BRICS alliance is posed to accelerate the de-dollarization trend, given the increasing utilization of local currencies by member nations. Currently, half of the bilateral trade between China and Russia involves payments in either the renminbi or the ruble, with each currency accounting for approximately a quarter of the trade payment volume. In April, the Brazil branch of the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China completed its first cross-border trade transaction using the RMB. And the Brazil Central Bank has announced that Chinese currency has now surpassed the euro to become the country's second largest foreign currency reserve. And amidst the U.S. sanctions on Russia, following the Russia-Ukraine conflict, India adopted to settle payments for Russia's coal using the Chinese yuan. Brazil also used RMB in chemical fertilizers trade with Russia. In the meantime, the dollar's share of global foreign exchange reserves declined from 73% in 2001 to 58% in the fourth quarter of the previous year. Now let's get more insights on the BRICS Financial Cooperation. We're now joined by Mr. Leslie Mastrop, Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of the New Development Bank. Mr. Mastrop, thank you so much for being with us in the show. The NDB announced its first local currency bond in South Africa ahead of the summit. Please help us to understand the significance of that and what can we expect from the NDB in the future in supporting financial cooperation among BRICS countries.
I think it's important to highlight that local currency financing has been a core part of the financing efforts and strategy of the bank since day one. When we established ourselves, already at that stage, we anticipated that we will be able to lend to our member countries in their own currencies. So way back in 2016, when the bank issued its first bond, it was indeed in renminbi. Since then, we registered a number of local currency programs in South Africa. In 2019, we registered a 10 billion rand program. We are now in the advanced stages of registering a program in rupee to issue bonds onshore also in India. And as you just referenced, we were very pleased about a week ago to be able to raise 1.5 billion rand on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange here. What we are now saying is that we will accelerate the local currency financing strategy, and we have an aim to have up to 30% of our lending to be done in those currencies.
And of course, as we know, South Africa is the host of the 2023 BRICS Summit, and it has invited African heads of state to take part in the summit. And looking ahead, what will be the primary areas of focus for the NDB's future investments and lending in Africa?
Firstly, the summit that taking place now in South Africa, it's the last day, is probably one of the most significant in the BRICS bloc formation over the last 15 years. Firstly, in terms of the sheer size and numbers of heads of state that are participating. And then secondly, as you know, the discussion around expansion of the BRICS. A few hours ago, President Ramaphosa announced the accession of 6 new members to the bloc. So essentially now the BRICS formation will become about 11 economies, with more economies to join in future. The key point to extract from that Johannesburg Declaration is that this will be a balanced, phased expansion of the BRICS bloc rather than a big bang approach to admit 30, 40, 50 countries. We had 40 countries attending, but only 6 countries formally joining. Going forward, our aim is now to deepen the bank's focus on sustainability. A number of the heads of state who spoke highlighted and flagged again the climate change agenda and the need for us to deepen our efforts to decarbonize these economies, and therefore we will be aiming to raise more and more green financing.
And we know that BRICS aims to accelerate the reform of global economic governance to make it more representative and also inclusive. How successful has BRICS been in giving emerging economies more voice and influence on the global stage, and how do you see NDB's role in that?
I think it is correct, as you've just referenced, that over the last 15 years, BRICS have played a very critical role in giving voice and expression. It is the kind of embodiment of, to some degree, of the voice of emerging markets. Now it's becoming more representative of the broader emerging markets. As you know, coming very close to now 50% of the global population, just over 28% of GDP. So it is a very formidable institution. I think it's important, though, to distinguish between the bank, which is a legal persona. It's a company that exists in Shanghai. It has capital, it has projects, it raises money in the financial markets, and BRICS, which is a political bloc. These are 2 separate formations. For example, United Arab Emirates is already a member of the bank. Egypt is already a member of the bank, and they have just joined the BRICS bloc. Going forward, we intend to also, in a phased manner, expand the membership of the bank, which will enable us to get in fresh capital that will allow us to make bigger investments into the future and help our countries as they move towards net zero.
And also, what is your perspective on the expansion of the BRICS membership? How might adding new members impact the effectiveness of the BRICS cooperation going forward?
I think it is a significant step. However, I think it is very much important to take stock right now and to highlight that this is not, and if you look at the formal statements of all the heads of state when they spoke yesterday, of the final statements that were made today at the Johannesburg Declaration, no one highlighted the words anti-Western alliance, new Cold War. I think all of this sort of exaggerated language doesn't really help in any way or form. There's no question that the world has been quite fragmented, but this attempt by BRICS to broaden, it's all about embracing globalization. It's embracing greater diversity, and it really is making the point, which United Nations Secretary General also underscored in his remarks this morning, that global institutions have to keep pace with time. That as economic realities change, our institutions have also need to be adaptable and need to be flexible to accommodate these new realities. In short, what I'm saying is that this formation, the extension of BRICS, is part of that adapting of global institutions to the modern realities.
Great insights. Thank you so much, Mr. Leslie Mastorp, Vice President and CFO of the New Development Bank. And in recent years, China and South Africa have boosted their partnership in agriculture. Chinese food and agriculture giant COFCO has been actively working with local farmers in South Africa since 2009. A representative from the company sheds light on the ways in which COFCO is contributing to the sustainable development of local agriculture.
China Oil and Foodstuffs Corporation has collaborated closely with South African farms to establish an innovative model for production and marketing cooperation. As part of the South African grain and oilseed primary production chain for processing, this model is notably benefiting local farmers.
The farming business model, we've been doing this from the 2009-10 season. Currently, we are partnering up with 62 farmers. We are producing 380,000 tons of crops spread over the summer production area as well as the winter production area down in the Western Cape. And the main goal of what we do together with the farmers is to basically get to a point where we gain and the farmer gain.
The company provides local market information and climate warnings. In the sales phase, it helps the farms choose the best time to sell. The agricultural cooperation has brought great social benefits to South Africa, creating more jobs in the agricultural sector.
Yes, definitely by farming responsibly, making use of the resources that we have in a responsible manner. We can ensure sustainability on the farms, and by doing that can create jobs and ensure that the jobs that is currently in place remains that way. We are going to develop further in South Africa. Currently we are farming on 83,000 hectares and endeavour to farm 100,000 hectares together with our farming partners. Also in terms of the different components of the value chain, we're going to get more involved in South Africa, and then also look for opportunities outside the borders of South Africa. There is a lot of potential in Africa, and we want to also get involved in those countries as well.
Jagger said that the Chinese company has also learned a lot from the farmers in South Africa. Looking forward, the company will continue to bring new ideas and technology to South Africa to further upgrade cooperation. 陈浩南、李逍遥 CGTN。
Time now for our special series, Biz Focus, where our anchors and reporters take a closer look at some of the most dynamic industries in China and around the world. And in this edition, we explore how financial services are playing a pivotal role in accelerating the recovery of businesses in the aftermath of the recent floods.
Biz Focus, feeling China's economic pulse. The torrential rains that occurred in late July and early August had a significant impact on 16 provinces and cities across China, including Beijing and its neighboring Hebei province. In response to this, a determined effort for recovery is now underway. On August 19th, the Ministry of Finance, in collaboration with the Ministry of Emergency Management, designated 1 billion yuan from Central Natural Disaster Relief Funds, contributing to a total sum of approximately 9.7 billion yuan. These funds are primarily directed towards supporting severely affected regions such as Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei, Heilongjiang, and Jilin, with a focus on providing assistance to the affected residents. Together with my colleagues, I had the opportunity to visit front lines of the flood-affected areas, particularly rural locals. Collaborating closely with local governments and farmers, the endeavor is currently aimed at revitalizing and enhancing crucial infrastructures with the ultimate goal of swiftly restoring normalcy to the affected regions. Let's delve deeper into these ongoing efforts. Local government officials and farmers in Fangshan district of Beijing are both collaborating tirelessly for the rejuvenation and enhancement of farming facilities.
During the flood's occurrence, the water levels reached the height of an average adult.
How long have you been clearing the mud?
For approximately 10 days.
In Fangshan district, all primary roads have been successfully cleared, ensuring my smooth journey from CGTN headquarters on the East 3rd Ring Road of Beijing to Fangshan in the southwest. However, the restoration and replanting of local farmland will require additional dedicated efforts. I'm now in Fangshan district, the flood-hit area in Beijing. And as you can see, all this farmland has been covered by very thick mud. Look at these footprints so you can know how thick the mud is.
A portion of the seeds were personally purchased, while others were provided by the landowner.
Following the recession flood waters, the leaves have begun to emerge, enabling the process of photosynthesis. This holds the potential for the survival of the peanut plants.
After being soaked in the floodwater for at least 3 days, numerous corn crops perished before reaching their fruitation stage, although a portion managed to survive. To understand more about the impact, I documented the present conditions and sought guidance from an agricultural expert online. She confirmed that while the yield might be diminished, with sufficient illumination and appropriate fertilization, the surviving plants can continue to develop, consequently mitigating some of the incurred damage.
Fangshan government has supplied radish, lettuce, and other seed varieties to each plantation, aiming to facilitate their recovery and production after the flood disruption. Currently, 80% of agricultural parks have successfully proceeded their insurance claims.
The subsequent phase involves disbursing relevant relief funds and policy subsidies to impacted farmers in alignment with disaster relief guidelines. And also, my colleague Olivia He visited Zhuozhou City in Hebei Province to find out how financial institutions are helping small businesses recover from the recent disaster. Take a look.
Fanti Wholesale Market holds a crucial role as a central hub for the distribution of agricultural products. Unfortunately, the recent floods have caused extensive damage and resulted in substantial losses for the local merchants.
The most urgent task for me now is to renovate the store and update the equipment, which requires a lot of funds.
Mr. Lee isn't the only one who's been affected by the flood. Actually, all the shops in this area have faced a similar situation. Their shops have been destroyed and their products and equipments have been ruined.
The
flood has cost me a loss for over 2 million yuan, and now I'm depending on loans to get back on my feet.
In order to assist businesses affected by the flood, financial institutions have extended their support. For example, Pacific Property Insurance has given out a total of 90 million yuan in compensation to the worst affected businesses in Zhuozhou City. On top of that, ICBC has provided over 48 million yuan in loans to small businesses and individual entrepreneurs in Zhuozhou who have been hit hard by the flood.
We've set up financial service stations in hugely affected areas such as the Xinfadi wholesale market for merchants to easily reach us. We also visit businesses to offer credit loan assistance in order to help them quickly restart.
In addition to individual businesses, financial services also extend their benefits to large retail chains. An example of such an enterprise is Huiyou Group, a local retail chain with 70 stores scattered throughout the city. Over 80% of the products sold in these stores are sourced from the logistics processing park located in Zhuozhou.
Shortly after the flood, The insurance company inspect our warehouse and give us funds to alleviate the financial burden caused by the 15 million yuan loss. Additionally, banks are offering credit assistance with lower interest rates and extended repayment deadlines, helping us overcome our current challenges.
Currently, Zhuozhou City is in the process of recovering and rebuilding with the help and support from major financial institutions. We're confident that the city will have a brand new look in no time. Olivia He, CGTN, Zhuozhou City in Hebei Province.
And my colleague Ho Jing is right now by my side. So I understand, Jing, this is your first time reporting from a disaster-stricken area. What are some of the behind-the-scenes stories that you have to share?
Yes, Lily, this is my first time to go to the front line of the disaster area. First, I would like to express my appreciation to the local farmers because I was really touched by their strong resilience when faced with such rare disaster. Of course, no one would be happy seeing the houses are destroyed under such circumstances. They are actually the victim of the natural disasters, but they did not fall into a victim mentality. I saw them, they react very quickly to clear the destroyed greenhouses and also the soaked corn crops, and for replanting some vegetables to make it up for their losses. And also for the local government, I saw they reacted very swiftly and also very cooperatively. I would like to share some little stories behind the scenes. As you know, when we want to interview some guests, especially the local governments, we need to send a formal letter and also a list of questions to them beforehand. But this time, when I contact the local government, they react very quickly and without asking for such a formal letter. So I can very quickly go to the front line of the disaster area to know what is really happening on the ground. And also, because in Beijing, they form a kind of partnership between the central district of Beijing and also the disastrous areas like Fangshan district and also Mentougou district. And also when I ask for help for Xicheng district in the central Beijing, they also act very cooperatively to offer help, to help me to get into the front line, to offer me some assistance at your convenience.
So it was a good mechanism. We always have to look at the upside in the downtime. Thank you very much. That's my colleague Ho Jing. Thank you so much. And also, in the span of 10 days, from September the 5th to 7th, the 6th Silk Road International Culture Expo is set to unfold in northwest China's Gansu province. More than 1,200 guests hailing from both China and abroad will be in attendance, including distinguished figures from Turkmenistan, Madagascar, Croatia, as well as culture ministers from the Moldova, Azerbaijan, and UNESCO representatives. Well, the opening ceremony will mark the commencement of the expo, which will encompass 13 plenary sessions centered on topics like cultural heritage preservation and Dunhuang studies. And this year, Turkmenistan holds the honorary title of the Country of Honor, where the event will also boast pavilions and special exhibitions offering a showcase of cultural, art, and culturally oriented activities.
We have three main considerations for this year's expo. Firstly, this year marks the 10th anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative, and we aim to take this opportunity to promote the high-quality development of the joint construction of the Belt and Road Initiative. Secondly, our goal is to inherit and carry forward the Dunhuang culture. Lastly, we aim to expand international cooperation in economic and trade with various countries.
And that'll do for this edition of Global Business on CGTN. Thanks for being with us. Bye for now.